Hey there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Carrie with bluescitypickin, and if you are new here, I am a part-time reseller that goes around to garage sales, estate sales, thrift stores, pretty much anywhere I can to find things to flip for a profit on eBay. I am exclusively an eBay seller. It's just what works for me. So it's been a long day already, guys, but I wanted to talk about what sold on the 3 days, June 26th, 27th, and 28th. Had really nice sales this week. Had one really high dollar sale, not huge profits on it though, but all in all, okay. So my total gross sales, all in, shipping, taxes, everything, was $700. Sales price, so what I agreed upon with the buyer, was at $455. The amount of money I had into these items was $71, and so I made $280 in those 3 days, which for me, I'm pleased as punch. That is right in my goal time frame. You will see in here that there are lower dollar items. So this has 25 different items that sold for that amount. The average being $11.19 per item. I talked about in my last video, and if you haven't seen that, I'd recommend go see what else sold this particular week, that I am changing my approach in how I'm strategizing, getting rid of some of this older inventory that I have, as well as going back through, it's really just going back through my store and making sure it's as clean as possible to ensure that the items are getting views and they're getting sales, because if they don't get views, you're not going to sell it. The minimum time in the store is I had something that sold same day, and then max was 406 days. So yeah, I have had something for over a year and then some. And then the average for this week was 121 days. And I think that really speaks to the change in my strategy, because normally I'm between like 80 and 90 days on average, because I have seen an increase in my more recent listings. Like I feel like I'm sourcing better these days than I was. So 121 is definitely higher than usual. But the summer of sales continues. Not my term. This person's term, who I can never remember the name of her channel, but I am accepting reasonable offers. I am running sales. I am clearancing out old inventory. And so let's go ahead and get into this. First off is a Tony Llama belt. It did have like a flaw. One of the little concho silver things was coming loose. I picked this up for $3 at an estate sale a few weeks ago. It sold for $16, and so I made $9.20 just a day after it was listed. Next up is a set of vintage Little Mermaid twin flat sheet and pillowcase. This I picked up for $1 at a yard sale last November. Got an offer for $14.75. I said thank you, and I made $11.74 after 227 days. Next is a Fisher Price Little People. This was a picnic table and 2 benches. Had $1 into this from a large Fisher Price Little People buyout. It sold for $7, and so I made $4.51 the same day it was listed. Next is a set of Innovation Cowgirl boots. I was hoping to get a little bit more out of these, but I was ready to see them gone. I paid $9.33 from these at a local thrift store back on the 1st of January of this year. They sold for $28.90, and so I made $13.51 after 169 days. Next is the 406-day item. This is 1847 Rogers Brothers. This is silver lace is the pattern. These were teaspoons. It was a set of 5. I have $2 into these. Picked them up at an auction last May. They sold for $28.73, and so I made $23.14 after 406 days. Next is an item that I picked up at my Goodwill's 50% off everything sale. If you haven't watched that video, like the haul, check it out. This was a pair of Allegrias. They were like new. They were white, floral, Mary Jane style. I did pay $10 for these though. They sold for $39, and so I made $20.68 in just 4 days. Next is something I would never pick up nor try to ship as a reseller. However, this was from my childhood. This was my parents'. This is a vintage Kransco yellow hydro slide knee board. This sucker was 55 inches long, y'all. It sold for $49, but it cost $80 to ship. Yeah, because it's that long. I mean, it wasn't crazy wide. It was only like 5 inches thick, but like $80 to ship. So after fees and everything, made $28.72 after 8 days of it being listed. Next is something from my daughter's clean out. This is a Pokemon Pikachu and Eevee mini backpack. Super cute, nothing into it. It sold for $39.04, and so we made $32.66 after 403 days. That one had been listed a very long time as well. Next item is my first bin sale of this particular week. I paid $2.55 for this bag at the bins. It sold for $16.15, and that gives me a profit of $9.41 after 41 days. True Religion, I don't know. I haven't picked up the jeans lately. Has anybody picked up the jeans? Do they sell? I'll put words up here if they do in fact sell, and maybe we should be looking for the jeans as well. Next up is a hobnail centerpiece bowl with a scalloped rim. This was white milk glass. This came from my parents' clean out back in April. It sold for $21.60, and so they made $17.29 after 70 days. I think I only have a few pieces of the milk glass left that I listed that my parents gave me. Now, I was super picky about which pieces I took to list because I only wanted to take the ones that I thought would sell. So I was pretty picky about it, and so far so good. The ones that I've picked have been selling. Next is an unopened board game. This was the Great British Baking Show. I paid $5.12 for this at a regular Goodwill back in January. It's over $20.40, and so I made $11.65 after 148 days. Next is a Petusco yellow pebbled leather shoulder bag. I paid $6.44 at a regular Goodwill back in February. It sold for $17, and so I made $8.26 after 128 days. Next is something that just like crushed my soul, but I just needed to let it go. This was a vintage 2001 Mohawk Home American Eagle throw blanket. It had been made in the USA. I paid $4.21 for this at a local Goodwill back in January. So when I got an offer for $12, the summer of sales required me to say yes. I said yes, and I made $5.25 after 166 days. Not what I was hoping to make on that, but I needed it gone. I'd had it for 6 months. Next up is a set of indoor-outdoor pillows from a church sale that I went to back in March. I paid $1 each for them, so I have $2 into them. They sold for $24.61, and so I made $17.84 after 98 days. This is an example of one that I went in and I messed with the title in the listing very, very recently, like within the last week, and they sold. So the method to my madness of going back through my existing inventory and making sure that the listing titles are good, the pictures are good, the description is clean, the shipping is correct. Like, This is showing me that that is a good use of my time because these are sunk costs. So anything I can recover on these at this point is fantastic. So super excited by that sale. And they were pretty big, so I was happy to get them gone along with that blanket. And the knee board, like the amount of stuff I dropped off yesterday at the UPS store and the post office was kind of nice to have all those things out of the inventory. Next up is a cutie cuff. This was Dobby from Harry Potter. I picked him up for $1 at the Goodwill back in May. He sold for $10, and so I made $6.20 after 32 days. I think I picked up like 5 or 6 of these cutie cuffs. Most of them have sold. I think the only ones I have left are the villains. I think I have Ursula and Cruella left, but I've sold several of the other ones already. So those turned out to be a good pickup. Next is this vintage Fisher-Price Little People. This was a set of 3 beds, 1 double bed and 2 single beds. These, I had $1 into them. They sold for $9, and so I made $4.28 in just a day. Next is another one that the summer of sales required that I say yes to. This was a Jimmy Buffett Welcome to Finland, like Finland, because you know he's looking for his last shaker of salt. This was a 2011 tour shirt in an extra large. I paid $2.09 for this at a Goodwill just a few weeks ago. It was definitely more worn when I got it home and started taking pictures than I realized when we were at the Goodwill. So when I got an offer for $12, I took the $7.26 profit that I got the same day it was listed. So sometimes it's about just taking the money and moving on. It was not a big time suck to do that one, and it's so easy to ship. You just stick it in a poly bag and move on with your life. Next is a Cool microwavable soft plush black cat. It was weighted. I paid $1.50 for this at our Goodwill's 50% off everything sale about a week ago. It sold for $16, and so I made $10.82 the same day it was listed. Next is a bins item. This was a J. Jill embroidered boho flowy blouse that I picked up at the bins for, it says I had a $2.55 cost of goods. I must have picked it up the same day as that True Religion shirt, which I did, bag, I did. It sold for $14.54, and so I made $7.17 after 64 days. Next is another long tail item in the store that I think I just dropped the price on. This was a set of earrings and necklace. It was a turquoise stone teardrop dangle earrings necklace. I had $1.25 into it from an auction last August where I bought a huge lot of jewelry. It sold for $12.93, and so I made $9.82 after 297 days. Jewelry is something that I still am not as educated on as I'd like to be. I plan on spending some time in the coming months just learning more about it, trying to watch some folks that do know more about it, researching it myself. I do sell jewelry. Usually I have like 1 piece a week that I sell and I make, you know, the bread and butter on, but it's very rare that I find something that I'm going to make a decent chunk of money on. So pretty happy with that. And it doesn't take up a lot of space. So I don't mind the jewelry sitting a little bit longer for the right buyer to come along. But that one, I think they got a great deal on. Next up is another long tail item. This is an LSU Tigers NCAA national champion white hat. Had an adjustable strap. I paid $1.99 for this at Goodwill in February of 2024. Yeah, that's when I thought I wanted to sell hats, and then I realized hats don't sell very fast, Carrie, and you need to pick them up for like $1 or less because unless you find one of those whiz bang ones, which I have not. So this puppy got marked down. It sold for $5.98, but I profited $3.06. So I got my money back. I made a profit. It's out. It's gone after 389 days, and I've learned my lesson. So that works. Next is another thing that I was just glad to go ahead and get gone. This was a pair of Hoka Bondi running shoes. I paid $9.31 for these at Goodwill back in February when the Hokas seemed to be selling better for me. They sold for 18 bucks. I made $5.60 after 144 days, but they're gone. Next is a vintage American Wego plush pumpkin that I bought at the Goodwill bins for $1.06. It sold for $7.65, and so I made $3.71 after 22 days. It was an easy lister, easy seller, easy shipper, but I don't know. I don't think I'd pick that up again. I mean, I don't want to value my time so low, if that makes sense. So if I have anything in here that's showing up for less than like 10 bucks, just know my intent is that I have learned my lesson and I will probably not be picking that up again. So yeah, there you go. Next up is a fabric swatch that I picked up at a church sale back in March. I had $1 into it. It was like folded up and rolled up, and it was like the coolest 80s, 90s patterned fabric. And I have had a lot of luck selling vintage fabric, sewing notions, lace, like bits and bobs. So it was folded up. It looked like a decent amount of fabric. It was taped up. Like when you're in the middle of a church rummage sale, you don't really have time to go through everything. Well, unfortunately, I got it home and it was like a weird shape. You'll see it in the picture. Like, it's an odd shape. So I'm like, God, do I even list this? I had even pulled it to not sell it like 2 days ago. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to mark all of this stuff down that I was just going to pull anyway and see if I can get it gone. So this is one of those things that I had ended. And then I did sell similar, marked it down. It sold for $5.51. And so I made $2.49 after 86 days, but it's gone. I made a little something. I got my money back, and now I've learned my lesson once again. And the last thing that sold on June 28th was these SpongeBob replacement tokens. This came out of a SpongeBob game that I picked up at Goodwill last December. I picked it up. It was flippin' complete, except the board was missing. I'm like, how does the board go missing? Like, of all the things that you think are not going to be in the SpongeBob board game box, the board, not one of them. So I went ahead and kind of pieced and parted it out. This is the first piece of it that has sold. It's been listed for 127 days because I was slow to list it. But I made $5.44 on this. And then I've got the money and the piece, the like hotels, the properties and all of that as well that's for sale. And so once those things sell, I should make about 20 bucks on the game, which is fine by me. I think that's what I expected to get out of it when it was complete, and I would have been able to sell it in one fell swoop though. So as I mentioned, I had, of the 25 sales, 19 of them were bread and butter. And so that's less than $15 profit. I only had 6 that were above $15 profits, which is why my average was $11.19, but I explained why I'm okay with that right now. The store allocation of where things came from and those profits, Goodwill gave me about 37% of my profit, auctions 12%, yard sales 15%, and like other, which is probably my parents and my daughter stuff, was about 33%. As far as like what was selling, definitely more in my normal percentage breakouts. I had about 47% come from clothing, shoes, and accessories. About 38% coming from like household, kitchen, decor, and about 15% from toys. And that's including plushies, board games, both vintage and modern type stuff. So all in all, pretty pleased with those 3 days. 25 items in 3 days is great. Clearing out some of this older inventory is great. And making money while you do it, since you had already spent the time on listing it and taking pictures and sourcing it, I'm okay with just recouping my purchase price and then a little bit of profit to basically pay myself back. So if you like this kind of content, I would genuinely appreciate a like, and please consider subscribing to the video. YouTube likes it when y'all say, hey, she's not so bad, she's kind of interesting. I may not be interesting, but I feel like everybody can come to the channel and learn something from me. I do try to put out 3 videos a week, usually mixes of what's sold, hauls, shop with me's, those kind of things. So if you're a reseller just getting started and you want a relatable person that does this part-time, that doesn't really get any viewer sales, like none of my sales, I think I've had one time somebody said, oh, I bought that. I'm like, oh, okay, great. I think I've had like one sale from somebody who watches me on YouTube. And by the way, I don't expect you to go buy anything. I know that there's a perception that if you're on YouTube, you're making sales because you're on YouTube. I am not the homeschooling picker or the part-time picker who's selling 30 things a day, with which like at least half of them are coming from their viewers. If you look when they pop up their solds, and good for them. That's amazing. That's awesome. Like, I don't yuck anybody's yum. Good for them. I'm so happy for them. They seem like good people, nice people. So, if you haven't checked them out, you should. You will learn a lot about just hard goods. Like, I've probably learned a decent amount of hard goods from them. So definitely go check them out. Anyway, I've been yapping and blabbering, and YouTube doesn't like it when you yap and blabber and people just hang up on your video. So thank you so much for coming by, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.